Raymond Muratalla versus Tevin Farmer. A fight I did not see coming, man. 10 rounds in the 135-pound division. Let's get into it. Let's start with Muratalla. 20 wins, no losses, 16 wins by way of knockout. Again, this is an interesting fight when you think about it. A fight I never saw coming, but nonetheless, here we are. I think we need to see a great performance here from Muratalla, man, because there's been a lot of talk about where his career is going and the level of competition that he needs to be facing at this point. But personally, man, I've been liking Muratalla, man. I've been liking what I've been seeing from him. He's a strong fighter, good timing. He's got good power, nice combinations, and improved footwork. You know, when he fought Diego Torres, man, Torres is a tough cat. And I thought we got to see him do a little bit of that Lomachenko angle work that Loma takes. Muratalla was doing some good angles, man, taking some good angles, using his footwork to get himself in some nice positions to get his shots off and put combinations together, man. He executed that fight very well, very fluid, very smooth. When he fought Jeremiah Nakatila, I thought his chin was going to get tested a little bit more. I kind of wanted to see that. You know, Nakatila, big puncher, man. He knocks cats out. And Muratalla took him out in 2 rounds. You know, that was very, very impressive performance from Muratalla to me. But I wanted to see that chin be tested a little bit more because when Muratalla fought Humberto Galando, he got dropped. You know, he got dropped with the short counter right hand and when he was stuck on the ropes. So he did get back up, which is always what you want to see. You know, when a fighter's back is against the wall, like anything in life, who are you when you fall? Are you going to stand up? Or are you going to take that count, take that fall, and not keep fighting? And Muratalla showed that just because I've been dropped does not mean that I can't get back up. And he went on to win the fight and stop Galando. So it was a good performance from him despite facing a little bit of adversity. That's what you want. Now, in his recent fight, he fought Ndeno Gini, who was coming off consecutive losses, and he was stopped by Arnold Barbosa in that 8th round. Now, Barbosa is an accurate puncher, but he's not known to be a knockout puncher type of guy like that. So when we saw this matchup, I'm not going to say when I saw this matchup, I thought Muratalla was going to be able to do what Arnold Barbosa did and get the stoppage and probably get a little bit quicker. But when the fight started, that wasn't the case. You know, Ndogini was in there fighting for his life, man. He was very active and he was letting his hands go. And because he was letting his hands go, man, it made Muratalla a little bit hesitant to what he was trying to do. He couldn't get his groove. He couldn't get his consistency because Ndogini was coming with 3 or 4 or 5 piece shots at a time for 3 minutes. It's tough to find your groove and your cadence when you have someone who is just punching you at will. And of course, in boxing, anything can happen. So you don't want to get caught with one of those wild punches and next thing you know, you're on the canvas. So Muratalla had to be a little bit more strategic and he was a little bit hesitant because of that. You know, he just never really found his groove fully. You know, even though it didn't seem like he was ever in trouble, ever in danger, even really look worried at any point throughout the fight to what Ndogini was throwing at him, it just seemed like he couldn't really get his groove. And, you know, that was a long layoff from Muratalla, man. And you can tell he looked a little bit rusty. And maybe that also had something to do with it. But you still got to give Ndogini the credit for his consistency, his outwork, his output, and for how he fought that fight, man. You know, Muratalla did hurt Ndogini a few times. And when Muratalla landed the shots against Ndogini, when they landed, he felt it. It backed him up. You know, you could tell that it hurt. But for whatever reason, man, Muratalla just did not push forward and let his hands go like we were kind of expecting him. I thought if he took that risk to get hit so he could let off his shots, you know, he probably could have been able to get him out of there, man. But he didn't. He fought a controlled fight, a disciplined fight, and he did what he needed to do to get the job done. But again, you know, Ndogini made it tough. So I think Muratalla is going to come into this fight and be more aggressive because I don't think Tevin Farmer is going to throw as many shots as Ndogini did, you know, but of course we'll see what happens on the night. But I do think Muratalla needs to have a big night. So let's talk about his opponent, Tevin Farmer. 33 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, and 8 wins by way of knockout, man. Tevin Farmer has had to persevere through a lot of things in his life outside the ring, but especially inside of the ring. He lost his first professional fight. That's never a good start. And then he goes on to win his next two fights, loses his fourth fight, a draw in his fifth fight, wins his next two fights, loses his eighth fight, wins his next three fights, loses his 12th fight to Jose Pedraza, where he got stopped in that last and final round. So, it puts him in a strange position, in a strange place. You have four losses on your resume already, and promoters not always going to want to get behind that. You know what I'm saying? The record the record does speak a lot. But then he goes on a 23 fight win streak, including beating Billy Dibb to become the IBF super featherweight champion, defending it four times before losing to Jojo Diaz in 2020. And not to mention, along the way on the outside, man, he got shot in his hand in 2017. And there articles that I've read, doctors said he wasn't going to be able to box again. 2017, and then 2018, he went down to Australia to fight Billy Dibb, and he got the win and became champion, man. So you want to talk about a crazy turnaround when you really think about it. Tevin Farmer has been able to turn things around when things haven't looked the greatest for him in his career. So it goes to show the perseverance, the resilience, and the character that he possesses inside of the ring, man. He's a very, very headstrong fighter, and he's got good skills to back it up as well, too. When Farmer and Diaz fought, man, I felt like that was a very exciting fight. Two guys at the high level in their prime, fighting at their best at that point. Farmer isn't known to be a big puncher. But same with Diaz. But Farmer is known to have good skills. He can box. He's accurate with the shots. And he's got a strong will about him, as I mentioned. When that fight started, Diaz had a massive cut above his eye very early in the fight. For me, that was one of the worst cuts that I've seen personally. It was just open, and they were just putting Vaseline in that thing. I'm like, man, there's no way that this fight is going to go the full distance. I was surprised that it did, but it did go the distance, which is always interesting. Now, Farmer, from my perspective, from my viewpoint, you might see it differently, man. He looked slightly off that night to me. His timing looked a little off. He's usually a little bit more elusive, a little more head movement. But that wasn't fully showing in that fight, man. He stayed in the pocket longer than he needed to. Even though he can fight on the inside pretty good, it just wasn't the same to me, man. He got stuck on the ropes a few times. And there were times in that fight where he was looking up at the clock. I don't know if he was tired. I don't know if he was gauging his energy. I don't know what it just didn't really, something just looked off to me. It didn't look right. Eventually, when the fight went on, you can see the separation between the two. Diaz, you could tell, was locked in, dialed in, focused, consistent with his work rate, landed some good punches. Man, he was physical when he needed to be, good on the inside. He just fought a more complete fight on the night. And he was probably fighting with a level of desperation because at any moment with that cut over your eye, man, at any moment that ref could say, that's it. We're going to call it here. And so he felt like he probably needed to win those rounds, and it definitely showed in that fight. But Farmer fought all the way to the end, but something just didn't really look too right to me. Nonetheless, he stepped into the ring, and you have to assume if a fighter steps into the ring, they're healthy enough and they believe enough that they can win the fight and perform at their best. So we have to take it at that. But after his Diaz fight, he took 3 years off, and he came back in the ring last year. And he fought Avery Sparrow, and I felt like after taking 3 years off and coming back, he looked pretty good. Boxed well, took good angles, much better defensively, countered well, saw some of that head movement that we're accustomed to seeing. He was slipping shots and countering. I thought he looked pretty good, man. And physically, his spirits looked to be up a little bit more, and he just looked to be a little lighter. Sometimes the heaviness of life, you can feel that weight, but he definitely looked light. However, his last two opponents, he did stop the both of them. The left hand counter in the 5th round against Oscar Barajas was lethal. It was dangerous. And then he stopped Alan Castillo in the 1st round. So we'll see what Farmer looks like on the night, man. Can he withstand the power and the hunger of the younger fighter? We'll see. So who wins? Before I give my pick on this fight, I have something real quick to share. You know, I'm always looking to bring more light, more value, more opportunities for the community. I've been working on a few different things in recent weeks to not just grow the channel, but as I said, to continue to provide as much value as I can to each of you in our community. With that being said, I got some exciting news to share. I'm happy to announce my partnership with BetStamp and Sign Up Expert. It's a great opportunity for you to join some of the best sports books to get the best odds and new user offer. All you have to do is head over to my dedicated page at signupexpert.com/the breakdown to explore a selection of sports books tailored to your region, each with its own unique offerings. So if you want to place a bet this weekend and on this fight and beyond, check out the link to find the best options for you in your region. Every sign up does support the channel, and it helps the channel grow and to expand and to create more opportunities, not just for me, but for our community. You know, I'm always looking out for you guys as best as I can. You can easily find the link in the description below this videos and videos moving forward. So get down there and check it out and find the best option for you. Now, let's get back to the video. Farmer came back after 3 years to fight at 135. And his recent fight was at 130. The Castillo was at 130. And he's going back up to 135 to face a natural 135er who's strong, powerful, and has good skills. So, you know, I'm not sure how the weight up and down for Tevin Farmer is going to be and what his conditioning is going to look like, especially when you're going to have a guy that's going to apply heavy pressure. Can he go? How is he going to fare with that going 10 rounds? You know, Muratalla doesn't always have the greatest start. Sometimes he's a little bit slow and hesitant. Other times we've seen when he pushed the pace, like when he fought Nakatila, he's able to be dominant from the jump. So it's going to be interesting to see what the game plan is for both men. Farmer could come out and win the early rounds, you know, but those middle rounds would be interesting. When we talk about experience, Tevin Farmer is the more experienced fighter. He's been at that top level, somewhere where Muratalla is trying to get to. You know, Farmer's recent opponents, man, post Jojo Diaz also haven't been great, haven't really been too much resistance. But that doesn't mean that he can't get the win on the night. He could box his way to a victory. But if he tries to stay on the inside of Muratalla for too long, man, I don't think that is the best bet for him. Muratalla's power and body work could make a difference. I also don't think Tevin Farmer is going to have that consistent output and volume like Endogini had or take that risk, you know, which means we could see a more Muratalla pressure and aggression, letting his hands go early in this fight and see him get comfortable early, you know. But if he can't cut off the ring as well, Tevin Farmer could use his feet to his advantage and win those rounds as well too, man. So while I think many people are probably expecting Muratalla to get the stoppage here, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight, man. If he's not dialed in early, he might have to dig himself out of a hole. But I still like Muratalla to win this fight by decision. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from you. How do you see this one going? Who do you think wins? Let me know in the comment section below. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. I appreciate each of you. We're almost at 6,000 subscribers on the channel, so be sure to share this channel with a friend. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.